Have you ever come across a rule that just seems completely bizarre, totally illogical? Well, we're about to dive into one from the ancient Talmud. It's this fantastic puzzle that, on the surface, makes zero sense. But once we start to unpack it, you'll see this razor-sharp system of logic that might just change how you think about simple actions and their profound consequences.
So at the heart of this whole thing is a surprisingly deep question. What actually makes an action constructive? I mean, when are we really building something up and when are we tearing it down? And we're not going to answer this with some abstract philosophy. Nope. We're going to use a very, very specific and pretty strange example. A knife that was once used to worship an idol.
Okay, so get this. Here's the puzzle. The Talmud says that if you've got a knife that was used for idol worship, you are allowed to slaughter an animal with it. But then, with that exact same knife, you're forbidden from cutting up the meat of that animal. I mean, what? How can the first cut be totally fine, but the second one is a huge problem? It makes no sense, right?
To solve this, we really need to get to the core principle that's at play here. And it all boils down to this crucial distinction between what's a constructive act and what's a destructive one. Let's see how this actually works.
So, here's the foundational rule, the bedrock of the whole argument. You cannot, under any circumstances, get any benefit from an object used in idol worship. That one word, benefit, that's the key. This entire puzzle unlocks once we figure out exactly what counts as a benefit and what doesn't.
So check out how this logic works. Slaughtering the animal, that's considered a destructive act. And you might be thinking, how? Well, think about it. A live animal, one that can work or have offspring, is economically more valuable than a dead one. So by slaughtering it, you're actually reducing its overall value. Since you're not gaining value, you aren't getting a forbidden benefit from the knife. And so the action is permitted. Simple as that.
But the moment that animal is dead, the game completely changes. Now, cutting that carcass into usable pieces of meat, well, that's a constructive act. You're taking what is essentially just a dead body and you're turning it into something useful. You're making it food. You are improving it, you're enhancing its value, and that is a forbidden benefit. And this just illustrates the distinction so brilliantly. It's not about the physical act of cutting. It's all about the economic and the functional result.
Okay, so we've got the basic principle down, right? Destructive is okay, constructive is not. But just when you think you've got it all figured out, this sage named Rava comes along and basically says, hold on a minute. He starts throwing out these really clever exceptions that show it's not so simple. It's all about context.
And Rava just completely flips the script. First, he gives us a scenario with an animal that's already dying. Okay, in that case, slaughtering it isn't devaluing it at all. You're actually saving its value before it dies on its own. That suddenly makes the slaughter a constructive act, which means it's forbidden. Then he gives us another one. Imagine a big, prestigious cut of meat that's meant as a gift. If you chop that up into tiny pieces, you've totally destroyed its value as this impressive present. So that act of cutting becomes destructive, which means it's now permitted. It just goes to show you, context is everything.
But hold on, it gets even crazier. There's an even bigger problem. The text itself raises an objection that seems to blow this entire, beautiful logical structure completely out of the water.
The text basically asks, why are we even having this incredibly complex debate about constructive versus destructive actions? Shouldn't using the knife be forbidden for a much, much simpler reason? I mean, if it was used to sacrifice an animal to an idol, it would be coated in forbidden fat residue. That residue would just mix with any new meat you cut, making that meat forbidden anyway. The whole debate seems pointless.
So the first attempt to solve this is, pretty simple. The case must be talking about a brand new knife. A new knife wouldn't have any forbidden residue on it, so the only issue left to discuss is whether you're getting a benefit from the object itself. Seems like a nice, clean answer, right?
Yeah, not so fast. This simple answer creates a brand new paradox. See, an object isn't actually forbidden as an idolatrous accessory until it's been used for idol worship. But if the knife is brand new and has never been used, it's not forbidden at all. And if it has been used, well, it should have residue. It feels like we are completely stuck in a logical contradiction.
And this is where the Talmudic method just really shines. Instead of throwing up its hands and giving up, it finds a way to solve the puzzle perfectly. The text gives us two scenarios where a knife could have been used for idol worship without leaving any residue. And the solutions are just so elegant. First, what if the knife was used to cut a branch for an idol? That is a clear act of worship, which makes the knife itself forbidden. But Cutting wood doesn't leave any fatty residue. Boom, problem solved. The second scenario, what if it was an old used knife, but it was purified in a fire until it was glowing white hot? This process would burn off every last bit of residue, making it functionally new while it still carries that forbidden status from its past. Both of these scenarios just perfectly resolve the entire contradiction.
So what's the point of this incredibly detailed intellectual exercise? It's really not just about knives and meat. It's a deep commitment to the idea that law and justice have to be built on sound, consistent reasoning. This isn't just about blindly following a rule. It's about a whole mindset, a deep-seated need to understand the logic so thoroughly that you can defend it from every single possible angle.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In a world full of really complex moral questions, what can we learn from this ancient method? What does this kind of microscopic attention to detail and logic tell us about what it truly takes to build a system that isn't just fair, but is demonstrably and logically just?